Okay, good morning, everyone. We're just waiting for Aileen to join in. Thank you for your patience. Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and get started. Aileen will be joining in a little bit later. So welcome back to season 9, episode 1 of the Justice Beat talk show. I'm here with Grace, the associate producer for the show. How are you?
Good, how are you?
Doing good. You ready to dive in deep and talk about what's to come this season?
Yes, for sure.
All right, so this season we are taking a deeper look at how justice actually operates in practice, and so not just in theory. Um, we're going to look at how, everyday systems that shape people's lives, such as courts, prisons, schools, and communities people return to, get affected. So, when we talk about the criminal justice system, we like to focus on outcomes, right? We talk about how arrests and convictions um, often feel measurable and final, but we don't always talk about what happens in between those moments. And we don't always talk about what people experience while they're incarcerated or what kind of supports they receive or are denied, or how systems actually respond or fail to respond to education, mental health, healing, stability. And so this season of the Justice Beat is about looking inside those spaces. It's about kind of slowing down and examining how justice is practiced day to day. So, inside prison classrooms, during mental health evals, through restorative processes, and in those fragile moments of reentry back into the community. And so throughout the season, we'll be guided by voices working directly at those intersections. And we'll explore education behind bars with Dr. Erica Miners, whose work challenges us to rethink how learning, incarceration, and inequality are deeply connected. We'll also examine how mental health is evaluated and understood within the legal system with Dr. Alexandra Tsang, whose work sits at the crossroads of psychology and legal decision making. We'll also look at what accountability and healing can mean beyond punishment through restorative justice with Lisa Daniels, and we'll explore how housing, stability, and reentry shape long term justice outcomes with Jessica Yeager. So, taken together, these conversations push us to ask harder questions about what justice really demands, not just from individuals, but from systems themselves. And one of the central questions we'll return to throughout the season is, kind of a personal one. So, what do these individuals actually experience on a day to day basis? How does rehabilitation look like? And so on and so forth. And so, depending on how we answer that question or those questions, what responsibilities do we have to those people who experience incarceration, and their education, their mental health, their ability to heal, and their chances of building a stable life after release. And so going back to Dr. Erica Miners, who is a professor at Northeastern. She will be on the show for season 2 of the podcast, and we'll be talking about education in prison systems with her. And so, a major focus of this season, again, is education in prison systems. And because education sits at the center of how we think about punishment, um, rehabilitation, and the possibility of change. And so we often talk about education as a pathway to opportunity, stability, and long term success. And so we tell people that learning opens doors and creates futures, but behind bars, that actual access to education looks very different. And so, alongside her perspective, will also be considering the voices of people who have actually experienced incarceration themselves. For many incarcerated individuals, education is far more than just earning a credential. It's about actually rebuilding a sense of identity in a system designed to erase it. And so it's about reclaiming dignity, developing critical thinking, and imagining a future beyond their confinement. Moving along to episode 3 with Dr. Alexandra Tsang, who is a licensed clinical psychologist with a specialization in forensic psychology. She's currently the director and chief psychologist at the King County Diagnostic Center, and she has about 26 years of forensic psychology work under her belt. We're very excited to have her and unpack what mental health evaluations actually mean and how mental health assessments shape court outcomes. We will talk about the difference between competency and sanity, how mental health can affect someone's ability to participate in their own defense, and why forensic psychology is often misunderstood by the public. And so we'll take some time to confront one of the most persistent myths in the criminal justice system, which is the idea that mental illness causes crime. Oftentimes those high profile cases that we often see on the news dominate public perception, and so but they don't reflect that broader reality. And in fact, people with mental illness, will learn, are far more likely to be victims of crime than just perpetrators. And so we'll explore why that misconnection persists, what factors are actually more predictive of criminal behavior, and how those myths influence policy, policing, and public fear. And yeah, I'm gonna take it to Grace now. She'll talk about our episode 4 with Lisa Daniels.
Yeah. So for episode 4, we really want to focus on Lisa Daniels, and Lisa is really focused on applying restorative justice principles within incarcerated populations. This is really important because incarceration often strips people of their identity beyond their offense. So restorative practices push back against that narrative by recognizing that people are more than the worst thing that they've done. They create space for recognition, responsibility, and growth, even within systems that are not designed for healing. Another theme in Lisa's work is trauma. So many people involved in the justice system, both survivors and those who caused harm, have very deep and unresolved trauma. Restorative justice acknowledges that trauma does not excuse harmful behavior, but it does help us understand it. So by addressing trauma directly, restorative practices aim to break the cycles of harm rather than perpetuate them. So another key theme in Lisa's work and within this topic is community. So we're going to be talking about how community plays a huge role in the process. So Lisa emphasizes that communities are not just places where harm occurs, they are also key sources of healing for these individuals. So when communities are involved in restorative processes, they create environments where accountability is supported, not avoided. This involvement also helps communities move away from fear-based responses and toward solutions rooted in care and connection. Another powerful part of Lisa's work is her focus on reintegration. So when people leave incarceration, they often return to communities without adequate support, which increases the likelihood of reoffending. So restorative justice approaches aim to prepare individuals for reentry by fostering self-awareness, responsibility, and connection. The goal isn't just release, it's successful reintegration and long-term change. So we'll kind of know more when we interview her directly in episode 4, but what makes Lisa's perspective especially compelling is it is grounded not just in theory, but in lived experience, leadership, and advocacy. She speaks to the emotional realities of harm, loss, and grief while still holding space for transformation and hope. Her work reminds us that justice systems should not manage harm, but also help people heal from it. So, yeah, so that's kind of an overview of what we can expect for episode 4. So kind of the overview and kind of the topic names you guys can know and look for it is restorative justice with Lisa Daniels. So that's something to look forward to as well. So now I'm going to get into what you guys can expect for episode 5. So episode 5, we're going to be focusing on Paula Bush of Northwest Housing Partnership. So Just a quick overview. When we think about housing, it is easy to think of it as just a roof over someone's head, but housing is really about stability, it's about safety, and about whether people can stay rooted in their communities. So one of the things that really stands out about Northwest Housing Partnership is that they don't take a one size fits all approach to housing. Instead of only focusing on getting people into housing, they focus on helping people stay housed, which is really important for keeping people, again, in their communities, which we know is so important. So the organization leader, which we will be interviewing in episode 5, is Paula Bush. And she is the CEO of this organization. So her leadership emphasizes practical, community-centered solutions. Under her direction, the organization partners with local governments, nonprofits, and private entities to address housing needs in a way that's both sustainable and responsible to community challenges. One of the key areas of her work is housing, counseling, and education. This includes helping people understand their options as renters and homeowners navigate financial challenges and make informed decisions. So for many people, housing systems can feel intimidating or inaccessible, especially if they're dealing with financial stress. So having access to clear, supportive guidance can be the difference between staying housed and facing displacement. Another big area of her work is repair and rehabilitation programs. This work is very, very impactful in the community. So, yeah, so I think we'll know a little bit more from Paula directly in episode 5. But yeah, so those are 2 major topics you guys can look forward to in episodes 4 and 5. So
Yeah, thanks, Grace. A lot of exciting stuff coming up. I want to touch on a little bit about who would actually benefit from our podcast and specific episodes in the podcast. I know that as students and individuals early on in our career that are considering going into the mental health profession, this season can really give us the why behind what we're studying, right? And how some of the theories we learn about in class actually translates out into the real world. And I also think that our podcasts would be great for educators and advocates who care about access and equity. So maybe, restorative justice practitioners, community organizers, nonprofit and reentry workers. I think that for them, this season would really validate what they already see on the ground and kind of give them that language to push back against some of those ideas. I also just think for those who are justice curious listeners, who just want to learn more, and I think that having those professionals on our podcast that can be able to give, resources and just basic education on kind of why it is what they do day to day, and what that actually translates to, what that actually looks like. And most importantly, I think that it'll really benefit those that were formerly incarcerated and their families, by kind of centering those lived experiences alongside those experts that work so hard to help them. What are your thoughts?
yeah, so I was kind of just going to mention kind of along the lines of what you were saying, like for just the average listener, if they want to know maybe what's going on in their community or even how they can get involved with the community, knowing professionals within the topic that they, feel passionately about, they can also get involved too. So they can maybe that sounds like something I would want to be involved in, or maybe that could help just educate those individuals on, you know, different things that they maybe align with as well. So yeah, we're really looking forward to interviewing with these individuals who are really really impactful individuals in our communities, and they do a lot of great work. So highlighting their work also, you know, makes more people know the causes that they are aiding with and the work that they're doing. So that's pretty much another one of our major goals as well. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Let's see. I think that specifically with our episode about prison and the education system and how those kind of intersect, and learning about those, you know, lived experiences of individuals that might be going through both of those systems at the same time. I think that it's important to take into consideration how, you know, in prisons and jails across the country, education is extremely limited and inconsistent, and oftentimes treated as kind of like a privilege rather than a right. Um, and also, programs I know vary widely depending on the facility, the state, and some of that available funding. And so, and I know some actually might offer GED programs as well, or just college level coursework. And so, and others I know offer absolutely nothing. And so, even when those programs do exist, they're frequently super underfunded, and just shaped by policies that make learning difficult, like restricting materials, extremely long wait lists, and limited class time. And so I think those barriers specifically raise a lot of important questions, like who decides to get access to education behind bars, what kind of learning is considered acceptable for incarcerated individuals, and what does it say about our justice system as a whole, when education is treated as optional in those spaces. And so I think I'm specifically very excited for that episode.
Yeah.
I think it'll be great. Dr. Miners has direct experience working with individuals who are actually getting their education through the prison system, and so I think that hearing some of her personal and professional stories will be an inspiration, and very informative for us all.
Yeah. That's a really good point, Annika. I kind of want to just quickly talk a little bit more about Lisa Daniels herself because we didn't really talk about that.
Yeah.
So, kind of right along with what you were saying. So, Lisa is a nationally recognized leader in restorative justice. She focuses on, healing communities impacted by violence and incarceration. And she's actually motivated by personal loss and a deep commitment to justice rooted in compassion. So, she has dedicated her career to transforming how accountability and healing are understood within the criminal justice system. So she works very deeply in advocacy, public speaking events, and leadership in general. So, so she works really closely with incarcerated individuals, which is really amazing. She works with survivors of harm and community members to promote. Can you guys hear me? This connection?
Yes.
Okay.
All good.
To promote dialogue, responsibility, and repair rather than punishment. So her work really emphasizes that the belief that people are more than their worst mistakes. So if you guys kind of want to know even more about Lisa and kind of connect with what she's doing in this current moment. She has a blog called My Life Is Not My Own, where she kind of writes about and shares inspirational writings through her platform. She also reflects on life experience with spiritual insight, and she kind of describes the overall blog as messages from life experience infused with spiritual insight. So, kind of, I want to get into one of the things that I really liked about her, if that's okay, Donica.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, one of the main things that stood out to me about her was that restorative justice focuses on healing rather than punishment. So, accountability is framed not just as suffering, but as taking responsibility and actively repairing harm. So, this episode also stresses the importance of recognizing the humanity of incarcerated individuals and allowing space for growth and transformation. So, another key idea that I liked is that harm affects not just individuals, but entire communities, and therefore healing must also be collective. This episode can reinforces and will deepen the audience and my own understanding of justice and a justice as a relational process rather than a purely punitive system. It challenged me to reconsider assumptions about incarceration and accountability, especially in the context of counseling and community-based work. So, kind of coming at it as in a student perspective, it aligns with values of rehabilitation, ethics, and systemic awareness. So, personally, it highlighted how meaningful change happens when people are given opportunities to reflect, take responsibility, and connect with their communities. So, kind of going along those same lines, looking at like kind of the broader implications of the work that Lisa does. So, this episode suggests that restorative justice has a potential to reduce recidivism by addressing underlying harm and supporting reintegration. So, it also promotes long-term community healing by involving those affected rather than excluding them from the community, which often happens, unfortunately. Compared to traditional punitive models, restorative justice offers a more humane and sustainable approach that prioritizes accountability, safety, and repair rather than fear and isolation for incarcerated individuals during their incarceration and afterward as well. So, just to kind of close out for episode 5. So, this episode has this episode will be very meaningful because it is reframed justice as something rooted in connection and responsibility alone. So it aligns with values of compassion, ethical practice, and community care. It has also influenced how I think about justice-related systems moving forward. So that's something to really look forward to.
Yeah, super exciting, Grace. Thank you. I think we're going to go on a short break and we'll see you guys after.
Introducing Next Generation Media Internship Program, designed for undergraduates, postgraduates, unemployed, dislocated workers, and WIOA participants. Our program offers remote virtual work experiences, qualifying as approved individualized career services. Learn while leading at your own pace, with part-time or full-time hours per week. Benefit from weekly debriefings and group supervision, along with our 15-minute masterclasses. Our projects include the Justice Beat Talk Show and the Just Us Youth Talk Show. Discover your gateway to success today.
Hey, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear
Yep.
you.
Am I still lagging?
A little bit.
A little bit.
Okay, just a little bit. Okay, great. You guys did marvelous. Excellent, excellent. And thank you, Adam, for the Q&A on the break. I want to check in briefly with YouTube moderators and the Facebook moderators to see if we have any questions coming in. If so, we need to have you. Okay, great. Thank you. Adam, are you receiving any questions in the chat from the moderators? All right. Until we have questions come in, they can get them in. Let me check the chat here. 1 second. Coming in. All right. So in the interim, so when the two of you were putting together as students and thinking about being a student at Adler University, what prompted the topic selection? What were you trying to occur? What made you interested in a particular topic? Donica?
Oh, I can go first if you like. So
Okay, go ahead, Grace.
Yeah.
okay. So in terms of the Northwest Housing Project was actually an idea I had right away. The reason that this, organization really landed with me was because actually my dad started this organization a long time ago. So I've always kind of heard from him how important housing is in a community and how really where you live and having and knowing that you have stable housing can really be a huge derivative in community safety and building community relationships and, making sure your kids can stay at the same school and making sure you're not going to lose your home and things like that. It's very stressful for people because at the end of the day, we all need somewhere, nice to live and somewhere safe to live. So I've always kind of heard from him how important it is and why his why in a sense of why he started this organization. So that was a really, really big one for me. And then the other one with Lisa Daniels, I really connected with her work because, I find it really important that we kind of reframe the way that we kind of think about incarcerated individuals as a whole, because a lot of times, people are so quick to, write them off as, only, they're just because someone did something bad one time, everyone does things that are bad. So it's not about just, writing them off and treating them differently and maybe excluding them from community. So I really like the work that Lisa does and how she is, changing the narrative about incarcerated individuals and helping them within the actual system of incarceration. So that's kind of the main thing that I really connected with Lisa and the Northwest Housing.
Yeah, in the context of the justice space, justice reform, housing and employment is critical. And so you make a very, very good point about to have stable housing, safe housing, and the ability to maintain that housing. Those are some factors that often elude them, and we have to do a better job out with those necessary everyday options available to other people that they're made available to them as well. So thank you for bringing up that point, Grace. Donna, would you like to add anything to that?
Yeah, so I also had a personal connection to this season. I'm currently getting my doctorate in forensic psychology, and so I think that one of the reasons I wanted to focus on this season, um, pertaining to education, mental health, and reentry, is because this is exactly where my own personal and professional interests actually lie. And so um, I'm specifically drawn to forensic psychology, not just from the professional side of things, but also because it kind of sits right at that intersection between people and systems that we encounter every day. Um, and there are a lot of things wrong so with those systems. So I wanted to start learning more about forensic psychology, and learning about how, as we're going to learn from Dr. Alexandra Tsang, how those individuals help shape legal decisions that affect people's actual freedom, their future, and how society actually understands responsibility and risk. And so it kind of just made me ask some of those bigger questions. So through my own curiosity, and doing research for the podcast, I think that's where everything kind of tied in. And so I'm super excited to have some of those speakers on our show this season.
Good. Well, what I can say is the two of you, Grace and Donica, you have done a wonderful job pulling together and building out the episodes for season 9. And I cannot wait until we start our actual episode in a couple of weeks. And I think that the audience is going to find them to be very beneficial to them as well, and walk away with a lot of tremendous nuggets, and even more important, encouraged and confidence built up on how to navigate this on behalf of their one or friend who may be incarcerated or soon to be released. So thank you. I'm looking forward to the rest of the season. All right. We have reached the 10:40 mark, and I want to do one last check-in to see if any questions or comments come in from any of the other platforms, Facebook or YouTube moderators, please. Okay. What social justice topics are most important to you right now? Are there specific communities or us to center? Okay. Are the activists, organizers, or creators us to? Okay. Wow. Okay. So who wants to take a stab at the first question? So it says, what social justice topics are most important to you right now? I'll start. For me, I would say ensuring that individuals who come into contact with the system have resources to manage that process. A lot of times, people who don't have resources often become victims of the system. Basically, that looks like not having the money to secure an attorney or property. So oftentimes they are subjected to public defenders, and not to put any shade on public defenders. If you have the resources to be able to pay for private counsel, that often is the better outcome, produces the better outcome. So for me, it would be resources and access to things that will allow a person to be able to have the proper representation if they should come into contact at any level, whether it's law enforcement, the judicial system, etc. Comments?
Yeah, I think kind of going off of that and a little bit about why I actually, decided to do some of these episodes and do some research is, mental health and incarceration are two topics that have always kind of intersected. And I think that, like you said, Aileen, how we want to make sure that individuals who are incarcerated have those the equal opportunity to receive those resources, whether it's mental health counseling, safe housing, secure housing, employment opportunities during rehabilitation. That's kind of why I am centered around forensic psychology is because I believe that everyone should have access to mental health care, whatever that looks like for them, right? It's on an individual basis. And so I do agree. I resonate with that.
Great. Okay.
Yeah. I kind of just wanted to mention I'm in a completely, different boat than Donica in the sense that I'm actually getting my master's in sports psychology or performance psychology. So I was not before, building out these episodes for this season. I was not super versed in the problems within the punitive system. So kind of as I learned more about the problems that are going on within the system, I have become, pretty, I'm trying to think of the right word, kind of enlightened to the fact that a lot of things need to change to ultimately not have those things be problems anymore. Because a lot of times the reason that kind of something that I've been thinking about recently is kind of the reason that people have multiple offenses is because the system is so messed up and it's not designed as it stands right now to support individuals during incarceration and after reentry. The reentry system really needs to be just better in a lot of different ways to actually help these individuals. So that's kind of the main thing that I'm thinking about right now. Specific communities.
Okay, great. Thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. And see, and it is okay if you have a different an understanding or awareness of and participating in this program helps to, and as you say, and further educate people about these topics, and go back and talk to their family members and friends in their community about what the issues are. So it doesn't matter what your educational trajectory is. It's just that you will weigh with a better understanding and awareness about these issues. And that's our goal. That's our goal. Are there specific communities or perspectives you'd like us to center? So I guess the question, communities that we need to focus on that question. Are there acts or organizers or creators you'd like us to? And the question didn't finish. Was this a question? I don't know if this was a question from an audience member, but I think I'm gonna try to follow this. Are there specific communities? I mean, all communities are impacted. I don't think there's not been a community that's not been impacted by the justice system. Information and content that is, and even encourages, involves all communities. In the days and times that we're living in now, I don't think we could be communities are impacted. Everybody being impacted. And so I think all communities would benefit from exploring the work and episodes that we put together and learning more as we form space. Okay. The last question here, I wish the question not complete, so we're unable to answer the question. But it looks like it might be asking for recommendations or suggestions. There are a lot of organizations that you could look up and Google to find out areas about justice reform that need more of our attention. For one, just Google justice reform organizations. Also, you can follow some of the organizations to get ground information on the statistics around the justice system, which is the Bureau of Justice Statistics, BJS. In every state, you know, you have your departments of corrections. You have also your grassroots organization. You have the ACLUs of the world. You have the National Urban League. You have the NAACP. You have a number of other organizations. Appleseed is one. There's a plethora of justice organizations in Chicago. So in any major urban city center, you're going to find grassroots organizations that are very dedicated to this space of justice reform. And so you know, I would encourage you to look up a few of those and see how you can get involved and become a part of this growing space in terms of seeing how we can provide solution. All right, any additional questions coming in? All right, and I'd like to leave last comments to Ken Grace. Any recaps that you'd like to do about the episode in preparation for next week? Well, not next week, 2 weeks.
Yeah, so we're really excited about what's to come, I would say. And we're really excited about what this information can kind of do for you guys in your own homes, and just learning new things, learning about people that are really making a difference. And yeah, we think you guys will really like it. We worked very hard to bring you great content and great topics and great speakers. So we're really looking forward to you guys tuning in this season. Yeah.
Right. All right. Awesome. Okay, great. Thank you for joining our very first episode 9 of the Justice Beat Talk, first and third Saturdays of February and April at 10 a.m. Central Standard Time across all of the social media platforms, which include Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. Don't forget to like and share our content. Friend, let them know we'll see you in a couple of weeks. Take care.